The David Pakman Show at davidpakman.com.
There's a huge Republican crisis developing. It's not because they said something incredibly anti-gay or against women. It's simply a crisis as a result of Obamacare working better and better. Almost every day, every week, we have better and better numbers. As Eugene Robinson writes in the Washington Post, this is the Republican worst nightmare that is coming true. Nearly 1.2 million people signed up last month for insurance through the Affordable Care Act exchanges. And this is really just not convenient for Republicans around the world. It seems like their two-pronged strategy for the election, which is bashing Obama and bashing Obamacare, is at least going to take somewhat of a hit because Obamacare really is doing quite well. The Obama administration now, since the program's lacking launch because of the website troubles, has now achieved enrollments that have exceeded or matched expectations, depending on how it is measured. Read that again. Surpassed expectations. Don't forget that the entire discussion was that nobody was signing up. Floridians are now flocking to the Affordable Care Act plans. Almost 300,000 Florida residents have enrolled through the federal exchange, and that figure surged by 88% in 1 month as the website problems were fixed. Also, there are 3.3 million people cumulatively that have chosen insurance plans through the state and federal exchanges by the end of January. That is, as a total, less than the administration had hoped for, but well above the predictions of those who created new numbers based on how things were going after the initial rollout. And when you look more closely at the numbers, they're even more encouraging. If you look at the proportion of young people between 18 and 34 years old who chose insurance plans through the exchanges, that number is also up 27% compared with an average of just 24% in previous months. This was actually part of the anti-Obamacare strategy. Remember that many anti-Obamacare people, I don't even know what to call them, were saying to young people, don't sign up. The way to protest Obamacare is not to sign up, knowing that the financial viability of the entire program is dependent upon young people who statistically tend to be healthier, signing up and kind of balancing out the premium pool. And lastly, to add on to what Eugene Robinson writes in the Washington Post, remember that these successes that we are now seeing now that the website is all fixed up and working properly are in spite of many Republican governors refusing to create the state exchanges altogether, some saying no to the Medicaid expansion. This is really a crisis. Republicans have done just about everything they could to stand in the way of Obamacare success, and it is clearly working.
Right, but the war on Obamacare is not over. If you go online, you still see all sorts of skewed polls and misinformation about how it's not working and how people are dying and you name it.
Right, as if no people were dying before because of healthcare, access to healthcare related issues.
Right, right. It's all nonsense. But I'm glad to hear this, of course. This is good news.
In a logical, rational world that wasn't just subject to the constant left-right, Democrat-Republican political posturing of the United States, people would be saying, all people would be saying, hey, wait a second, you know, the website didn't work that well, but millions and millions of people are signing up. People are finding the best care option as part of one of these federal or state exchanges. Maybe this is viable. Maybe we should go further. Let's further explore why it is that every other country at our level of development has already implemented single-payer, universal government-run healthcare. Maybe we should do that. Unfortunately, we have a barrage of right-wing propaganda and lobbyist-funded drivel in this country that will withstand any success, at least in terms of what we will see publicly. And we're going to have to continue pushing for better healthcare in this country in spite of the never-ending anti-anything where the government is involved, anything where corporations might have slightly less say over our healthcare. That we're just going to have to keep fighting that. And remember, Obamacare gave the insurance companies 30 million new customers. There's nothing socialist about it at all. Big news about NSA, GCHQ, and WikiLeaks from Edward Snowden, Julian Assange has now called for the appointment of a special prosecutor to investigate the NSA after documents that show the U.S. has been spying on WikiLeaks and WikiLeaks supporters and website visitors. Documents were published from Edward Snowden detailing the US and UK spying efforts into WikiLeaks and into those who visit the WikiLeaks website. One document shows that going all the way back to 2010, the US National Security Agency added WikiLeaks and Julian Assange to a manhunting target list together with suspected members of Al-Qaeda. That's right, surveillance was being done on WikiLeaks and Julian Assange in the same scope that it was done on those suspected of being members of Al-Qaeda. Another document shows that the NSA wanted to designate WikiLeaks a, quote, malicious foreign actor in order to even further expand the NSA's ability to target WikiLeaks and WikiLeaks staff, associates, and supporters. And then we have a third document from 2012, which shows that the NSA's British partner, the GCHQ, was also spying on WikiLeaks and its leaders. WikiLeaks is now saying the following in light of these revelations. Quote, news that the NSA planned these operations at the level of its Office of the General Counsel is especially troubling. No less concerning are revelations that the U.S. government deployed elements of state power to pressure European nations into abusing their own legal systems, and that the British spy agency GCHQ is engaged in extensive hostile monitoring of a popular publisher's website and its readers. The system that was used by GCHQ to monitor the WikiLeaks website was codenamed Anti-Crisis Girl, is described in a PowerPoint presentation, which is classified, but it's been now distributed and leaked. And it's a system that also allows the IP addresses of visitors to WikiLeaks to then be tracked. And of course, even though it's, quote, metadata, it's very easy, even in layman's terms, to understand how they can easily backtrack and figure out who is accessing the website. As someone who has been on the press list of WikiLeaks and Sunshine Press for years, speaking of myself, couldn't I be almost certain at this point that some of my information is probably within that metadata at this point?
Without a doubt, mine too. I've visited WikiLeaks, and it's I'm not worried about that. Of course, 132nd internet search of either of our names, or just tracing that IP address, and they'll know exactly why we were there. But for a lot of other Americans, I don't know. They might not be as lucky, and they might have people showing up at their door, or who knows.
I think that this is it's even more evidence when we think back to remember Chelsea Manning was the source for the WikiLeaks documents. The fact that it's being discussed and monitored in the same breath as suspected Al-Qaeda members really tells us a lot about the perception of leakers and whistleblowers at this point. Remember, unlike Edward Snowden, Chelsea Manning and WikiLeaks did expose crimes that had been committed. We can disagree over whether there should be crimes in what Edward Snowden exposed, but factually speaking, Chelsea Manning exposed crimes. I thought that we would talk a little bit about shootings, and just as a kind of thought experiment, or simply an experiment in randomly picking a day, I picked the day Sunday, February 16th, 2 days ago, and I said, let's just do a report on shootings that day. Because I've said many times, Lewis, every day we could do stories on various shootings that have taken place. Negligent/accidental shootings, shootings that were homicides, gang-related violence, etc. So I said, let's look at Sunday the 16th. Sunday the 16th, there were 5 individual shootings that were reported on extensively. There were, across the 5 shootings, 5 people dead and 23 people injured. So for example, 1 dead and 3 injured in Saginaw, Michigan, shot outside of a club in Saginaw, Michigan. 1 dead and 4 injured in Fort Worth, Texas. This was at the Fort Worth Stockyards there in Texas. 1 dead and 4 injured in Jacksonville, Florida. This was a nightclub shooting. 1 dead and 6 injured in Dallas, Texas at a Dallas nightclub. And 1 dead and 6 injured in Pine Hills, Florida. This was after shots fired at a house party. Each of those that I just told you about could be a 4 or 5 minute discussion about the specifics of the case and what happened exactly. We could do this just about every single day. The entire show could be just telling you about the shootings that are taking place in this country, yet we still have important elements in this country. And by important, I mean that they have clout, they have money, and they have political influence, who say we don't need to be further restricting access to guns. We need to be, if anything, expanding it. Every day we could do these types of segments, Lewis, and just read these.
Right. And the numbers look good. There are probably some that we missed that you might not have found. And we seem to be hovering around like something like 8,000 to 10,000 gun murders a year in this country.
I want to now expand a little further on the gun discussion and to push back against the idea we hear from the right, from the more guns no matter what the facts are crowd, and talk about background checks. In Missouri, gun murders have increased after the background check law was repealed. And I want to go through this in detail with you. This is being reported by Eureka Alert and by SamuelWard.com. There's a new study that's going to be published in an issue of Journal of Urban Health, led by John Hopkins Center for Gun Policy and research director Daniel Webster. And it found that there were 55 to 63 more people murdered per year in Missouri after Missouri repealed its permit to purchase handgun law in 2007. The repeal made it way easier for Missouri residents to buy handguns from unlicensed sellers who were no longer required to perform background checks in order to sell guns. In a press release, Webster said this study provides compelling confirmation that weaknesses in firearm laws lead to deaths from gun violence. There is strong evidence to support the idea that the repeal of Missouri's handgun purchaser licensing law contributed to dozens of additional murders each year since the law was changed. Now, let's explore some devil's advocates here, devil's advocate arguments. What if gun murders also went up in neighboring states where background check laws were not repealed? That's a fair argument. Let's note then that while Missouri did see an increase in gun murders from 2007 to 2012, surrounding states experienced no increase in murder rates, and additionally, the overall murder rate in the United States continued to decline during this period. Thus, it was not something about the broader area that forced an increase in gun murders in Missouri. Let's go even further. Well, what if all types of murders increased in Missouri, with or without guns, including stranglings, including stabbings, all sorts of other stuff? Well, no, that's actually not the case. There was no increase in other types of murders and homicides in Missouri during the time that the background check law was repealed, only an increase in gun-related murders. I don't know how many times we have to have the discussion, Lewis, about if there are less guns around and more impediments to getting guns, you can still talk about specific people who shouldn't have guns that obtain them anyway, but as a matter of simple math, there are going to be less bad guys, supposed bad guys, getting guns.
Right. And I think a while back we discussed that the majority of Americans favor background checks, right?
Yes, absolutely. Even though it was still one of these issues that for some reason we couldn't get through Congress.
Right. And of course, you still have the gun lobby, who is very powerful, and perhaps they had a hand in this decision.
Yeah, well, the biggest thing that we have to remember is that more background check requirements reduce the total number of guns that are sold by big gun manufacturers, and that's really what's driving the opposition here.
Yeah, of course. They're out to make as much money as possible. It's just big business as usual. It has nothing to do with our Constitution.
After the break, I have two bizarre stories that I think you're going to like. One involves a proposition for nude pictures to be taken of Lewis and of me, and the other involves gay fan fiction involving me and Young Turks host Cenk Uygur. These are very strange stories, I'm warning you now. Glad you're with us today. I'll tell you about that next.
The David Pakman Show at davidpakman.com. Welcome back to the David Pakman Show.
Our membership program is made possible in part by liberalbias.com. Liberals think they're so cool with their fancy statistics and math, but conservatives do have numerology. To find out more about using numbers without liberal bias, visit liberalbias.com. Today's member of the day is Jeffrey Huspick. Jeffrey, thank you for being a David Pakman Show member. You can join Jeffrey by going to davidpakman.com/membership. And you're not only supporting our show, you really are funding our expansion, our growth, and you get so many good member benefits, including the world-famous bonus show hosted by producer Louis Motamedi. Check that out, davidpakman.com/membership. As people know, because I've mentioned it a couple of times to make it an understatement of sorts, we're raising money to expand our program to 5 days a week. Right now, we're about $16,000 shy of reaching our ideal goal for the fundraiser. We have a match going on, matching dollar for dollar up to the $20,000 mark, etc. And people should contribute by going to davidpakman.com and clicking on the Indiegogo banner at the top of the page. We got an email from Erin Lewis with an incredible offer where Erin said, would you and Lewis be willing to pose nude? If added as a perk or something, I would happily fund the rest of the Indiegogo campaign. This seems like an offer to fund the $16,000 that are remaining in the Indiegogo campaign if we are to do some kind of a nude photo shoot. Now, Louis, you've said in the past that while you wouldn't do nude modeling in general, there is a dollar amount that would get you to do it. I have a sense it's probably higher than $16,000.
That it is, David. Yes, it would be significantly higher, but that is a very nice offer.
It's an incredible offer. Now, I wonder, just for the sake of having the conversation, Louis, let's talk it through a little bit. What if it were to be side shots where private areas aren't really visible, but we're not wearing any clothes? Because a nude photo shoot means we're nude, but it doesn't necessarily indicate what is visible.
Right, like the whole Sports Illustrated thing with all the athletes that are nude, but positioned in such a way so that it's still, I guess, PG-13.
Right.
Or that's how it would have to be done, right?
The other thing is, as a perk, would these be pictures that only Erin gets? Because that's kind of weird. Where if the perk, it's a $16,000 perk, and only Erin gets the pictures. I don't know. I mean, I don't really understand the logistics. I don't know for sure whether this is a bona fide offer, but it is very interesting.
Right. I think this might just be, I don't. It's hard for me to believe that someone is willing to dish out that much just for a couple nude pics of us. But,
well, Louis, women have been very interested in figuring out what exactly goes on with Lewis behind the scenes. And after you talked about fathering children, I think that sent a lot of people into a tizzy.
It might have, yes. Perhaps we never should have even broached the subject.
Okay, I've also told you about our subreddit on Reddit, where you go to reddit.com/r/The David Pakman Show. People are sending us ideas. We're chatting with people on there, interview suggestions, topics for the show. Everything has been going really great until this morning I log on, and there's a very bizarre message on our Reddit message board, which is about Cenk Uygur and David Pakman gay fan fiction. I'm just going to read you what the post was, and this is just incredible. Hey, I was wondering if anyone else here fantasizes about David Pakman and Cenk Uygur, host of The Young Turks, being in a relationship together. I've been considering writing some fan fiction with Cenk as the, I don't know if it's pronounced the Sem or the Seam, and David as the Uke. But I'm wondering if any of you have already read or written similar fan fiction that I can use for inspiration. I don't think anybody else has written fan fiction involving Cenk Uygur and me in a gay relationship, as far as I know. I had to look up what seam and uke means. I guess they're terms from Japanese, either anime or other Japanese cartoon. What am I talking about? Not cartoons. I don't want to offend anybody.
I don't know. How about just literature?
From Japanese literature, graphic literature. that are, I guess, gay couples. I think that's what the allusion is to there. So anyway, no, I don't know of any fan fiction at all. This is the most bizarre thing that to date has been posted on our subreddit. But if there's no greater reason to go check out what's happening on our subreddit than seeing this type of conversation and the conversation that's developing would entice me, that's for sure. So go to reddit.com, reddit.com/r/The David Pakman Show and hit the blue subscribe button. Louis, I have to admit, the subreddit that our audience suggested is a really good idea, and we're getting tons of great interview suggestions from it.
Yeah, no, I think it's going to be a great source and a great way for our fans to communicate with each other and write things about you and gay relationships.
Yeah, with Cenk Uygur.
Yeah.
Comcast and Time Warner might be merging. They want to merge. It would be terrible for consumers. Mark Gongloff on Huffington Post wrote that it might be a win for both companies if the $45 billion merger happens, but that it will be no victory for their combined 30 million customers who are already among the least happy customers in all of corporate America. Comcast and Time Warner last year were the lowest scoring cable companies in the American Customer Satisfaction Index, mainly because of their terrible customer service. Listen to this. The cable industry is one of the least liked industries as it is in the United States. To be the worst of the worst is really, really bad. To be the worst company among cable companies in terms of customer satisfaction means you're literally one of the worst companies in the country when it comes to customer service. They say the combination of Time Warner and Comcast creates an exciting opportunity for our company, for our customers, and for our shareholders. It's interesting. I don't know any customers of Comcast or of Time Warner that are excited by the possibility of this merger.
Right. I don't think anyone is excited about, any customer is excited about it. I think this is going to be one of the worst things to ever happen to cable in this country. But I'm thrilled that I am in one of the very few places that I will have an alternative to this massive company.
In what sense? Because of Google Fiber coming to Austin, Texas, you mean?
Right. Hopefully that all goes according to plan, and I have that option.
Yeah, well, in most cases, if you say, well, sir, if you don't like the Comcast Time Warner service, Com Warner, call it what you want, you could always take your business to another cable company. Oh, wait a second. No, you can't. We're the only one in town. You could switch to satellite, but then your internet will be slow, or you could switch to, just having an internet connection and then using Netflix, but then now with net neutrality, that might not go that well for you. I guess you don't really have that many options. Why don't we set up a technician to come to your place between 10 a.m. tomorrow and the third full moon of 2015? And by the way, when we call you to confirm that you're home, if you miss that call, the appointment is done and we'll have to reschedule for 3 weeks from now. That's essentially how it goes.
Yeah, that's Comcast and Time Warner in a nutshell. If this merger happens, they're going to have everyone by the you know what. Yeah,
they're going to have people over a barrel, for lack of a better term. Hey, the other thing I was thinking of was when we talk about these mergers, media consolidation has now. There's always been the media outlet and distribution consolidation, so few companies owning all of the media outlets. And then we also have had the issue of lack of choices when it comes to the delivery method. Now that Comcast and Time Warner and MSNBC are all getting together, they're becoming one and the same. The distributor and the delivery method and the producers are becoming even more consolidated. And it's just terrible for consumers. There's no way that you could argue this has been positive historically.
Yeah, this is just a nightmare, but I'm sure maybe the shareholders are interested and excited, and I'm sure plenty of the people, plenty of the execs are very excited about this too, and good for them.
Coming up next, I will interview another Argentinian Jew. This is the first time, other than when TV director Natan Pakman was on the show, we have had another Argentinian Jew on the show. However, I will warn you, there's not going to be much agreement during the upcoming interview.
The David Pakman Show at davidpakman.com. Welcome back to the David Pakman Show.
I'm joined today by Avi Lipkin. He is an author, lecturer, and journalist. His website is vicmord.com. That's VICMORD.com. It's great to have you here, Mr. Lipkin. You know, at one point you were big on talking about the Barack Obama birth certificate. Now you've moved away from that topic a little bit. So let me open up the floor to you to give us an assessment of President Obama 5 years in. Is he doing a good job? Is he doing a poor job, and why?
Okay, well, you know, there are two ways to look at President Obama. You know, there are those people who say, as President Bill Clinton used to say, hey, it's the economy, stupid. If it's, hey, the economy, stupid, Barack Obama, in my opinion, is doing pretty much a good job. And I think that there's a very solid reason for it, which I can get into in a moment. I am a Jewish person who, of course, I live half the year in America, half the year in Israel. And I'm working to warn not only the United States, but Canada, Europe, Russia. I've been on Radio Moscow in Russian to warn the world of the threat of Islam. So the question then is asked, is President Obama a Muslim? The birth certificate issue, I think, is a moot point. But the question as to what is his religious affiliation, this is an important question. Also, if the Arab Spring, so-called, brings about the collapse of Middle Eastern economies, then the people who live there will be fleeing, and they will come to America. And my wife, Rachel, who is also Jewish, but born in Egypt, Sephardic Jewish, she is an intelligence gatherer. She is a radio monitor for the Israeli Kol Israel radio services. And she picks up broadcasts all the time in Arabic from the Middle East, from various sources, that President Obama is a Muslim. He is serving the Islamic cause. And if Saudi Arabia says that America is going to be Muslim in 150 years, that they said 30 years ago, and now they say America will be Muslim in 30 years, it means we see a tremendous influx of Islamic immigration from the Arab Spring countries, and the Saudis will be paying for a building boom, which will make the American economy boom like never before.
Okay, so let's stop there for a second. There's so much in there, Avi, and I want to just, if we can take it piece by piece, I'm breathless because there was so much in there. So let's go through it step by step. I know from your writing that you are very concerned about the threat from Islam, and you find many Muslims to be untrustworthy, dangerous, etc. I'm curious then why you would trust those same Muslims if it is true that they are saying President Obama is Muslim. Isn't it a little bit it's hypocritical to, on the one hand, not trust Muslims and find them to be incredibly dangerous, but at the same time take their word that President Obama is a Muslim? Isn't that an incredible hypocrisy?
No, not at all. You have to understand, in Islam, it is permissible to make agreements with the infidel, which is the Jew, the Christian, the Hindu, the Buddhist, or the blacks in Africa. The agreements are made and they're kept so long as it is in the interest of the Islamic side to keep it. The moment that the Muslim side feels strong enough and ready to break the agreement, that's when you cannot trust them.
Right, but hold on a second. But the thing is, that doesn't really address how you're very much cherry picking what you believe Muslims about and what you don't. It seems you're choosing to believe Muslims that President Obama is a Muslim because that is a preconceived notion you already have about him, isn't it?
Oh, no. Okay, now I understand. You put it in the right perspective. You see, the Islamic world has what you call PR in English. They come out with something that is nice to the ears of the Westerner. Yeah. In Arabic, they say other things. My wife listens and has been listening for the last 30 years to what they say in Arabic, and it's very different. And what they say in Arabic is what they really mean. And there is a YouTube that I did not even make. It's called Saudi Plant, P-L-A-N-T. And it's about me and my wife, over 5 million hits. And it talks about Obama swearing to the Egyptian foreign minister, Abu Ghait, this is from Egyptian TV, that he is a Muslim. His father was a Muslim, if you're talking about the birth certificate.
But hold on a second, Avi. I want to this is the key thing. We don't have video or audio of President Obama doing that. So what you're saying is that you trust the Muslim media that you are typically not trustworthy of with regard to their claim that President Obama has done this, but you have no evidence that he actually did that?
We had no evidence about 9/11 before it happened, but they said they were going to do it, and they did it.
But the difference is you're saying President Obama has already done this, whereas 9/11 had not yet happened. So I don't see how that's a relevant comparison.
No. Don't misunderstand me, please.
I don't want to.
No, you're a good interviewer. 1997, I came out with my first book called Is Fanatic Islam a Global Threat? And this was during the Bush years. And my wife was picking up broadcasts that they're going to take the planes and crash them into the World Trade Center. And I was flying El Al to the States with very good security, but at the American airports, there's no security. And I said, these people are going to crash their planes into the World Trade Center. And the people at the airports here, LaGuardia, Kennedy, others in Texas, they wouldn't dare to attack us. And then it happened. So after it happened, of course, I was a prophet. And I said, I'm not a prophet. I just listen to my wife. She listens to them. But the point I'm saying is the primary thrust of my message is what my wife picks up in Arabic broadcasts about what they really mean and what they really intend to do, which is what they say in Arabic. Same applies for the Palestinians.
Okay, all right. But so fair. I think that's good, at least. So we, even if we disagree with where you've gotten your information, at least we understand where that is. Now, let me posit a different question to you. Sure. Let's say it's true that President Obama is a Muslim, which of course I don't believe he is. He is. We have no evidence that he is factually, other than Muslim TV that you normally distrust telling us that he is. So let me ask this question. What has he actually done as president that would be concerning in terms of, I don't know, giving power to Muslims or putting non-Muslim Americans in a worse position? In other words, if President Obama really is a Muslim, it seems he hasn't really helped Muslims very much, has he?
Well, I would say he has, and let me explain it. You asked me, I know I will answer you.
Yeah.
I think that it is undeniable that he has packed the White House staff with Muslim advisors.
Like who?
Well, there's a whole list of 5, 6, 7, 8 names of people who are now senior people in the White House and in the defense that he has put in. I travel all around this country. I just fly into New York for a few days, and then I'm in Texas and all over the place. I speak to a lot of military people. And there are a lot of Muslims now joining the U.S. military, and there is a very serious question of dual loyalty, because they say they will not attack a Muslim target. I received this from many military people all around the country, and I'm telling you, I drive along the Mexican border and the Canadian border in Texas and Florida and other places, and I'm receiving very strong accounts of the Islamization of America.
The problem I have with that logic, Avi, is this, and I think this will resonate with you. I'm also Jewish, although a very secular Jew. Right. When individuals say to me, David, because you're Jewish, even though I'm not Israeli, I'm actually from Argentina, because you're Jewish, we question your loyalty to the United States because of the mere fact that you are Jewish. And I find that to be both wrong and anti-Semitic. Along the same lines, if you question American Muslim loyalty to the U.S. merely because they are Muslim, it is equally unfair and disparaging, is it not?
By Western thinking, yes. But again, you have to remember, you have to ask one or two hypothetical questions. Is Islam's plan the conquest of the world? In my opinion, the answer is yes. They say so in Arabic. If they want to conquer the world, the kingpin is the United States of America. They don't really care very much about Israel. Israel is the little Satan for them. America, Christian America, is the great Satan. And again, I'm Jewish also from Argentina, by the way. And we could do the interview in Argentine Spanish if you want. But the point I'm saying is that Islam has a plan. America is the target number one. Stephen Emerson said this in the Jihad in America PBS video he made in 1993. The ultimate target is America. And so this is a steady plan. And it didn't start with Obama. It started with Bush the father, and it continued with Clinton, and then Bush the son. Everyone is subservient to the Saudis because the Saudis, you're in the financial district, the Saudis basically bankroll the American economy. My wife picked up a broadcast where the Saudis were saying, if America doesn't do what we tell them, we're going to pull the plug. But if America is our ally and they do what we tell them to do, then we will raise Wall Street up, which is one of the first things Obama did. Good, actually. In other words, when Obama came in, it was 6,000. Wall Street was 6,000. Within a year, it was 12,000. Now it's already to 16. And I believe Wall Street will be up very soon to 20,000 because of the massive immigration of Muslims to the country and the funding of building of new houses, a building boom by the Saudis. So, like I said earlier in this show, if we're talking about financial and economics, Islam is good for America. But if we're talking about the de-Christianization of the country, which I believe as a Jew, it is Christianity which made America the greatest country on earth.
Yeah, we're just not going to agree on that. I think, though, I wish we had more time. It's fascinating how two Argentinian Jews could end up so far apart on thinking just about everything. But it's an interesting conversation. We've been speaking with Avi Lipkin. His website is vicmord.com. Thanks for being on. I think it's an interesting conversation, although we really didn't agree on much, but that's okay.
I think in the future you will see we agree on a lot of things.
We'll see.
The David Pakman Show at davidpakman.com. The David Pakman Show at davidpakman.com.
A study has been released about internet trolls, and the study says that internet trolls are narcissistic, psychopathic, and sadistic. We have a lot of trolls on our YouTube website, on our Facebook page, on our Twitter feed, people who email us. I mean, look at Patriot Mail, for example. And there's a new psychology paper based on research conducted by Erin Buckles of the University of Manitoba and two of her colleagues, and it directly investigates whether people who engage in online trolling are characterized by personality traits that fall into the so-called dark tetrad: Machiavellianism, narcissism, psychopathy, and sadism. Now, Machiavellianism is the willingness to manipulate and deceive others. Narcissism is typically described as egotism and self-obsession. Psychopathy is known as the lack of remorse and empathy. And sadism is finding pleasure in the suffering of others. The study found correlations, sometimes quite significant, between these traits and trolling behavior. What's more, it also found a relationship between these traits, all except for narcissism, and the overall time that an individual spends per day commenting on stuff on the internet. This really answers the question, why do people who really hate what we do and what we say, why are they constantly leaving comments on our YouTube page? And I think this study very, very tidily wraps it up.
Yeah, it's fascinating. The internet has really provided the only outlet for this type of behavior. This type of thing just didn't exist before the internet, because what were these people going to do? I mean, write letters, and who was going to see them? Well, now everyone can see them, and they can just post at will all day, and it's unfortunate, but I'm still glad we have the internet, of course.
I've always felt somewhat sad, kind of, when I see the same names popping up trolling all of our YouTube videos, which we just ignore, because I don't really know anybody personally who has the time to do this type of stuff, because they have so much going on. You can't be trolling every single YouTube video that we put up. So my tendency has always been to feel bad. However, over the weekend, we're going to release a YouTube-only video, which is going to ask our audience on YouTube, should we ban our regular YouTube trolls? And it'll be up to the audience what we decide to do. A North Carolina high school has blocked the creation of an atheist club, saying it just wouldn't fit in. SecularStudents.org and Pathos are writing about Pisgah High School in Canton, North Carolina, and saying that the high school is refusing to allow an atheist club to form. They write, after the first meeting with the assistant principal, Connie Weeks, the student was told that Weeks needed to look into the formation of the group. At subsequent meetings, the student was told by Weeks that they should just join a different club because the secular club didn't, quote, fit in to the community at Pisgah High School. There were no faculty sponsors available either. However, the Equal Access Act states that if a sponsor can't be found, the administration is required to assign a sponsor for the group. The group wouldn't fit in. That's why they're forming it, because the students aren't fitting in elsewhere in such a religious area. How can you be so incompetent?
Yeah, that really is the whole idea of forming this type of group. I wonder if this high school would say the same thing if there were a gay group or, I don't know, a leper group. Who knows? Whatever you want to call it. The idea that you have to ban something because it doesn't fit in is exactly the problem.
That's why you're creating the group, to create a place for those people to go. So here's what happened. The Secular Student Alliance wrote a letter saying that they want to figure out what's going on and want to talk to the principal about this. The principal ignored it. Then the Freedom from Religion Foundation, along with the ACLU of North Carolina, have gotten involved, and they wrote a detailed letter saying that preventing the formation of this group not only violates the law, but it is also just bad policy, and that non-religious and non-Christian students within the high school should have equal opportunities for participation and to make the school a better place. There's really no excuse for the administration denying an atheist group from forming when it appears very clear that they have no problem with, for example, Fellowship of Christian Athletes being a group at the school. Ultimately, I hope the right decision is made here, the legal decision.
Well, it seems like there are going to be certain groups that are on the ball here, and will make sure that the right legal thing does happen.
Yeah, and we'll continue to track it and let you know how it turns up. Our voicemail line is available to our audience 24 hours a day. Any questions, comments, suggestions, ideas? Call 219-2-DAVID-P. Here is one voicemail with a suggestion. When I talked about the political system kind of holding voters hostage in a sort of Stockholm Syndrome situation and asking what could really affect change and get people active, here's one idea that's a little bit less conventional.
Hey, Pakman, it's Peter Widziel calling from Nashville, Tennessee. And I do like the show, and I saw you guys talking about what it's going to take to get people motivated to, stand up. And, calling from Tennessee, I can tell you it's going to take Jesus. That's what it's going to take. We're going to have to re-educate these Southern Christians that the people they're voting for are actually supporting policies that are anti-Jesus.
Right.
It's like, I think when it comes to economic policy, we need to ask ourselves, the question, what would Jesus do? Would Jesus cut food stamps or build tanks that we don't need? Would Jesus tax cuts? I think it's going to take shame.
Yeah, this is a really good point, which is if we could just convince people, we could convince the religious groups in this country that Jesus would be pushing for the progressive values, that would get people active. But the problem is we're trying to disconnect the political and legal system from religion. So while you're probably right that that would get people motivated, I don't know that it would be good in the long term. Let's go to one more voicemail here.
Hey, David Lewis. This is Mike in Cincinnati. I was just listening to the bit about the lady that at 19 has killed 22 humans. I don't want to ruin anything about the movie, but I'm thinking that this is just an American Psycho thing. I'm just going to call it right now.
What do you think that means, Lewis? That the woman who may have committed 22 murders, that it's an American Psycho thing, just suggesting the kind of like fetishistic killing? I'm not sure. I don't know exactly what is meant by it.
That she is so crazy that she basically imagined all these killings and didn't actually commit them.
Oh, so he's actually going that far. Yeah, it's been a while since I've seen the movie. So that may be the case. I mean, the reaction from the FBI was, let's take a step back and figure out whether she's telling the truth or not, because we don't really know about that. Certainly, it appears, I mean, she hasn't been convicted yet, but it appears that she did kill at least one person. So it's not someone who's killed no one. That at least we know. On today's bonus show, we will talk about meth in North Korea. We have a disagreement with a member of the audience about homeopathy. We will also talk about outrage and coverage of the military's so-called practice city. How do you get the bonus show hosted by Lewis? Very easy. Go to davidpakman.com/membership. You can sign up in seconds. And also, we are down to our last 6 days in the Indiegogo fundraiser to expand our show to 5 days a week. Go to davidpakman.com and click on the blue Indiegogo banner at the top of the page to check out what we have going on.
The David Pakman Show at davidpakman.com.